Welcome to Demand and Disrupt, the Disability Podcast. Here, we will learn to advocate for ourselves and each other. This podcast is supported with funds from the Advocado Press, based in Louisville, Kentucky. You are in for a treat today. For our interview segment, I will be talking to Laura Reynolds. She is a former Miss Wheelchair Kentucky, so we will learn all about that. But before we get to the interview, I am joined by a special guest doing the co-hosting with me this week. It is Sam Moore from Henderson, Kentucky. Sam is a fellow blind person and also the host of the Blabbin in the Bluegrass, very popular podcast. So welcome, Sam Moore.
Well, I'm so glad to be here, and thank you so much for having me, Kimberly. Yep. And I tell you that I feel honored that you consider me a special guest, because very few people consider me special. So you're in the minority there.
It is wonderful to have you. So tell me about yourself, Sam.
Oh gosh, how much time you got? No. I tell you, I could drag this out for, at least a few hours, but to condense it slightly, I've been totally blind since I was about 7 months old. At least that was the first time that we noticed, my family noticed my vision loss, and retinoblastoma was the cause of it, a form of eye cancer. So I eventually lost both eyes. They tried to save the vision in one eye without success, but, thrive with the help of a great support system, and went to school locally in the Henderson County school system. And I met you there, Kimberly, when I was attending college at Western, and counting grad school, I had 6 solid years there. So I've been real blessed and continue to be.
Excellent. And now tell us about your podcast, Blabbin in the Bluegrass.
Yes, indeed. I came up with that name one night while I was having trouble sleeping, honestly. It was during the pandemic, and, everybody, myself included, we were all trying to kind of figure out what was going to be next for us. And so I was laying in bed. I'd been, suggested by others. Others suggested to me that I start a podcast. And so I'd been thinking about it, decided that was a good idea. And I was like, I love Kentucky. I found myself, creating Facebook posts about it. And so I thought, well, why not channel my passion for Kentucky into a podcast? And so I came up with the name Blabbin in the Bluegrass. And so the idea, and what I strive to do, is promote restaurants and musicians, educators, bottom line, anybody with an interesting and a unique connection to Kentucky. I'm all about considering for a future show feature. And you were telling me, I was glad to hear it too, that you listened to my recent show where I featured several guests from the American Printing House for the Blind, and one of them was Joe Hodge, who you knew and helped you actually get set up with a podcast before. So I thought that was kind of a small world, and I appreciate you listening to that episode, Kimberly.
Oh, it was a wonderful episode, and that is season 9 of Blabbin in the Bluegrass, episode 7. So if any of our listeners are interested in that and want to tune in, I thought you did a great rundown of the history of the American Printing House for the Blind, and also their future, what's coming up for them. It was a fascinating episode you did with 3 employees from APH. So great job.
Your check's in the mail, Kimberly.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It really was. And, I enjoy your non-disability related content as well. I really liked one you did with the hat designers who do that. A lot of the hats. Yes, the hat girls. That was fascinating. That really was. So anything interesting in Kentucky, you all give Sam a call, drop him an email. He wants to know about it. He will talk about it.
Bluegrassblabbin@gmail.com is my email address. So feel free to let me know about, any potential show features that you'd like to hear.
That is awesome. And in the show notes, I'm going to drop a link to Sam's podcast, and I'll put that email address in there too. And also your Facebook page, right, Sam? You have a community you're building there around the podcast?
Blabbin in the Bluegrass Facebook page. And I appreciate you sharing those links. So you're definitely welcome to listen and subscribe to the show through either of those outlets.
So many disabled people in Kentucky doing so many wonderful and interesting things. And of course, our next guest, our interview guest, is one of those. And, she talks a lot about travel. And our last couple of episodes here on Demand to Disrupt Sam have been international. We interviewed an Australian, and
Oh,
before that, a Canadian.
I'm telling you, you are
So
going to be global next thing we know.
big time, big time. That's what we're shooting for. And so this episode, we were bringing it back to Kentucky. And so I thought, I really want to talk to Sam. So, and I mean, you cover one end of the state to the other, right? Stuff you
That's
talk about.
that's the goal, and I haven't done it yet. But before it's all said and done here, Kimberly, I want to feature at least one person and/or place from all 120 counties across the Commonwealth, and I've got a ways to go to get there. But we got to have goals in life.
Wow. Well, that's no small feat right there. That's a lot of people to talk to, a lot of things. Kentucky is such an interesting place, I think.
I mean, Eastern Kentucky is so much different than Western Kentucky, and they have their commonalities, but you can't just go to Louisville and Lexington. Nothing against either of those places, but you can't just go to those two cities and assume that you know a lot about Kentucky, because there's much more to it than those.
That's true. That's true. Down here in Bowling Green, we're probably more like Nashville than we are like Louisville.
Well, yeah, you could probably make a case for that. And I spent the better part of 6 years there, so there's plenty to like about Bowling Green. In fact, I've had several guests from there, Kimberly. In fact, on my very first episode, Miss Parsley, I had Carl Cheney from Cheney's Dairy Barn.
Oh, yes. I love Cheney's. They have the best banana pudding ice cream. I tell you, so good.
Oh, I think
Best
I
ice
remember him
cream.
talking about that too.
It's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah. So, and let's see, Chance Groves from the Office for the Blind there in Bowling Green. She was a guest of mine last year.
Awesome. We love Chance. She
So,
does a great job.
I
Independent living counselor. Uh-huh.
definitely urge anybody and everybody to check that out. It was I can't remember the episode, but if you'll send me I can't remember which one it was, but if you'll send me a email to bluegrassblabbin@gmail.com and request a link, I will send you a link to Chance's episode. Fair enough.
Awesome. So y'all all heard it. Y'all just email Sam and he will send you that link. And so, Sam, one more time, thank you for joining me on our opening segment today. You're filling in the co-hosting duties with me. And everyone, before we go to my interview with Laura Reynolds, I urge you to check out Sam's podcast, Blabbin in the Bluegrass.
Thank you, Kimberly. You're the best.
Welcome, everyone, to Demand and Disrupt. I am here with a former Miss Wheelchair Kentucky, Laura Reynolds. Hey, Laura, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Kimberly. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for making time for us.
It's my pleasure.
So tell me about being Miss Wheelchair Kentucky. Tell me, what did that entail and how did you get to that point?
Well, back in 2003, I joined a modified dance group called the Miracle Dancers. It's part of the Diane Moore Dance Academy. They're located in J-Town, and that's a dance group for people with special needs. They're various ages, disabilities. It's really an inclusive dance group that focuses on what someone's able to do instead of what they can't. And the Miracle Dancers had performed at a Miss Wheelchair pageant. And I found out while I was at the pageant that I qualified to run as a contestant. So the next year, I ran as a contestant and I did not win. So I was like, well, I want to give this one more shot. So I ran for the 2006 title and I did win that year. So that was very exciting and I was thrilled. So it was kind of amazing how one thing like the Miracle Dancers led me to Miss Wheelchair Kentucky and then all of what that involved being Miss Wheelchair. That was very much a role of advocacy. It's a pageant that's based on merit, on the ability to speak in public, address groups. You do TV appearances, speak to schools, small crowds. the idea is to be an advocate for people with disabilities, and you have a platform that you want to share with people. And I also competed in the Miss Wheelchair America pageant in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Ooh, tell me about that. That sounds exciting.
That was exciting. There was 27 states represented. We were at the Peabody Hotel, which had, they're known for their famous mallard ducks that they have on display in the lobby there, which is really cool to see that. They actually swim around in the pond, but we were there for a week, and that involved doing interviews, speaking engagements. We were able to do some community activities, kind of go out in public. So that was really fun. And getting to know, 26 other women who use wheelchairs from around the country. Like that's probably never going to happen again, So
Mhm.
really enjoyed getting to relate to some of the fellow contestants and share some of our struggles, the goals we've set, the accomplishments we've had. And the last night of the pageant, we had the crowning part. I did not win the pageant, but as much as I would have liked to, it was an honor to be a part of it. But we gave our it was our online, not online. I apologize. It was our on stage speeches. So we had to give a speech about a topic that was important to us, and there was like a cumulative score of all our interviews and all those things from that the whole week. So
Wow.
it was a really great time, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. And yeah, it was such a pleasure. So.
Awesome. So, what was your topic?
It was getting to do recreational sports, like making activities and recreational sports available for people with disabilities, helping create awareness about it, whether it's miracle dancers or adaptive sports, finding ways to participate in physical activities as best you can. And they're usually adapted for people in wheelchairs. Really about seeking those out in your communities and finding what's available. So,
Mm-hmm. Wow.
yes, yeah.
And so, when you were Miss Wheelchair Kentucky, did you have a specific area of interest that you focused on, or was it just general advocacy for people with disabilities?
It was general advocacy for people with disabilities. I did have the opportunity to go to Frankfort, the capital in Kentucky, and address several of our politicians and just kind of go as a representative of the pageant and tell them, kind of what we're about. And, uh, you know, I shared some of the struggles people with disabilities face, and it was an honor to get to do that. I was also announced on the Senate floor by Senator Denise Harper Angel. She invited me to come to the Senate floor, and I was officially recognized. And I was also commissioned a Kentucky Colonel by Representative Charlie Miller. So that was really a privilege to get to be recognized on the floor like that. And I got to speak to both Republicans and Democrats. And it was a nonpartisan effort just to make awareness of the pageant, what we do, advocacy, just kind of bringing issues to light that people with disabilities face.
And did you find the legislators receptive?
They were very receptive, and I actually got a standing ovation when I went in there, which was kind of amazing. I didn't expect that, but they really, I found that some of them, they like to talk to their constituents, such as myself, and find out like a perspective from someone like me of what laws they could make that could possibly make things better, for people with disabilities. So to share some of that with them in their offices personally was a real honor to get to do that, because I'm not only representing myself, but people with disabilities in Kentucky.
Well, as a fellow disabled person, thank you very much. I am so appreciative of all of our advocates. It is so important. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So it sounds like sports and physical fitness is very important to you.
It is. I do wish I was a few pounds lighter than what I am, but there's always the challenges with having, being in a wheelchair. You just have to try to do what you can. And not even, there's definitely the fitness aspect, but it's also just enjoyable to do those things. I haven't been able to do as much of that recently, but I am a member of the Jewish Community Center here in Louisville, and it's a like an activity center, community center where they have uh, pools, exercise rooms, all these different things, and it's open to the public. So it's a membership, and you can they have the pools there have lift chairs that'll lower me in and out of the pool or the hot tub, which make it really nice. So
Oh, that is nice.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
I'm able to get in there if I want to. So I'm really grateful for resources like that, So yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's about finding things and trying to move. Even on days when I can't go somewhere or do something, I just try to keep my legs moving. I'm able to move my legs. So it's just important. And one thing I'd like to do also is um, to lose some weight. It's always a challenge when you're in a wheelchair because there's limited mobility. So
Mm-hmm.
in the
Mm-hmm.
winter months make it a little bit more difficult, but um, there are things available, for me to do, like the Jewish Community Center.
That's interesting that you talk about that, because I think we live in a society that equates thinness and health, that those are the same thing, but they're really not. I mean, what is healthy for me to be able to do and you to be able to do
Yes.
is very different from what's healthy for, ability for someone else. So I think that's incredibly important to keep in mind. And I'm glad you brought that up.
Yes. And I was just it's one of those things where obviously I'm not able to get up and go for a run or a jog, you know. So for me to find other ways to do things, or just be aware is important. And I know that I'm never going to be a size zero. I'm just not built that way,
Mm-hmm. Right.
but I do try to do the best I can. So
I think that's important. I personally, I have profound balance problems. So
yeah,
I really think that every time I walk across a room without falling, someone should clap for me. I really think that's what should happen.
yes.
So, but I found a rowing machine. So
Oh
I'm
yeah.
able to it's down low. And if
Yes.
I fall, I'm only going to fall about like 4 inches or something. So,
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
No,
but it is a struggle. It is time and attention that we have to spend and money to do
yes.
things that are accessible for us. And
Yes.
um,
Exactly.
so now you had done some things. You've been involved in. Let's see, was it in Colorado?
Yes. In Colorado, there's a place called the Baptist Sports Center, and it's in Crested, Colorado. I was fortunate enough, about, well, it's been almost 14 years ago. I went out there. My dad was kind enough to take me, and they had adaptive sports, and it's a really small town in Colorado, and they have like horseback riding, kayaking, whitewater rafting, biking, just all these different things available. Now, depending on the weather and what's going on, kind of determines what's available. So I did have the opportunity to go horseback riding, which I loved. It was a horse named Texas, and I was actually on a ranch with a guy named Boy Mike. So I felt really uh, blessed to be able to do that. And another thing that was really cool is in the corral they had the cowboy Mike said, "Well, you want to go sit in the middle of the corral there?" Well, I did, and then he actually had Texas run around me. Well, let me rephrase that. It was not Texas. It was a horse named Reba. Yeah, it
Uh-huh.
was Reba. She ran around me in circles, and it was really cool. Like something like that will probably never happen again. But I enjoyed getting to do that, and just seeing them making ways for people with disabilities to do things, and having trained staff there was really appreciated, and I really enjoyed my time out there. So,
Uh-huh. Yeah, recreation, I think, is what you're talking about, and it is
yeah.
so important. It is so important, not for not just physical health, but our emotional health as
Oh,
well.
oh, for sure. Yes,
And yet, it is such a challenge,
it
isn't it?
is. It is. I think people with disabilities I would say more often than not, we face financial challenges, transportation challenges, having possibly assistance to do these things. But a lot of times, if you really do the research or look online or get in contact with people, there are ways to try to find things to do what you'd like, or even grant some of these things. So that's always something to keep in mind.
Yes, yes, it is. And tell me about an organization called Gathering Strength.
Yes, it there is a group of us, ladies who use wheelchairs that get together about twice a year, and it's sponsored by an organization called Gathering Strength, and it kind of promotes um, basically women in wheelchairs getting together, supporting one another, and I just really enjoy it. We get to have lunch, we get to talk about kind of what we've gone through this past Christmas. We had a little Christmas party. We did a gift exchange, and it's just about getting together with fellow wheelchair users and kind of getting encouragement from one another. You know, sharing experiences and supporting each other. So that's something that's been a real blessing to me. So.
And tell me why you think that's important. I mean, I agree, it's absolutely important, but tell me how it's been important to you to have those encounters with other people going through the same or similar challenges.
It's important because there are days, the fact of the matter is, I can have a bout of anxiety. I can have a bout of depression. Being disabled is tough sometimes. And when you're reminded that it's not just you, it's not just me, but there's other people that are struggling too. But we find ways to get through it. We support one another. I know, particular lady, if I'm having a tough day, I can send her a message and she has a word of encouragement. You know, it's we're just there to support one another. You know, it's tough some days. Having a disability is not easy. You know, we deal with more on a daily basis than our able-bodied counterparts do. So we have more things to think about. My experience. So to have the community of people who can relate to you, whether it be a paralysis or cerebral palsy or whatever the case may be, we can talk about our experiences, the good and the bad, and you know you're not alone in your situation.
That is so well said. So well said. Thank you for that. So you mentioned that recreation was difficult, and I agree. Something else listeners to the podcast will know that I personally find difficult is travel. So much so that I just plain don't do it if I could possibly help it. But now you are way more adventurous than me. So tell me about travel. In particular, you've done a lot of Disney traveling. Is that right?
Yes. I went to Disney World in Florida a handful of times, and I also had the privilege to go on a Disney cruise several times. Um, with that, I typically pick Disney. Well, first of all, I'm a Disney fan from way back, so I like all the Disney princesses and all the movies and all the things. But I also find that Disney really offers some accessible benefits that I can't get with other travel. For example, if I fly into Orlando, they have accessible buses that will take me to the hotel, which saves me the cost from having to rent a vehicle or get like a ride share, which is, in my experience, hard to find a ride share that's accessible. I just haven't heard of it. Maybe there's some out there, I don't know. But because they provide that transportation, it really attracts me to that, to Disney. And also, they provide transportation from the hotel to the parks, which is really nice. I appreciate that. And they have good restrooms, and they even have set up if you want to go on attraction. Now, being in a wheelchair, I can only get on so many rides or attractions in Disney, but they do have a policy where you can, in advance, I forgot what they call it. I think it's called Disabled Access Service. You can actually get a little interview before you go, and it can kind of move you ahead in the line so you don't have to wait there. You know, like a typical line might be on a crowd day, which is nice. because some people may not be able to stand there or, sit there for whatever reasons, medical reasons. So that's something I was able to take advantage of. And on the cruise, well, I like cruising because it's pretty much all inclusive, and it included all the entertainment, all the meals, and they had accessible cabins, which was nice. My room, the bed lowered, which was nice because my caregiver could help me get into the bed. I'm hoping to take another one again sometime. I'm in no rush, but it's just in the island they go to in the Bahamas. It's called Castaway Key, and it's Disney's private island. And they do have paths that go on the beach there, so people in wheelchairs can get on the island and access the food and the shops. And there's even wheelchair, I would say beach wheelchairs, where they can help you get onto the beach in a beach wheelchair, which I've done. But I will say, be sure if you need assistance when you're on a trip, be sure that you have someone with you that can help you if you need it. Because I know of like legal reasons, they try not to like help if they can help it. I mean, they would help me if I needed it, and I did need it at one point, but I know for some of their legal issues, they try not to touch anyone if possible.
I want to take a cruise so bad, but it's my husband, even though he won't let me admit it, he has whatever the fear of like open water is.
Yeah.
He has that. So
Yeah.
he's very anti a cruise. And for me, I'm like, I think it would be great. Everything would be all on a boat. It would no driving anywhere. I think it would be great, but I don't know if it's going to happen. But ideally, that's what I would love to do. I tell you what, you and I need to plan. We will just do this together. We will.
Yeah.
Me and you will go together, and then that will be perfect.
Yeah, we'll be quite the team. And I'll get it, and I know how things operate, and they're really like helpful. Like when you go to shows or different things they have, or music or whatever the case may be, they have, wheelchair seating for the visually impaired. So they really think through things for people with disabilities. And even and I think it's something worth mentioning. I'm going back to Disney World. There is a ride called the Jungle Cruise. It is so cool, and I can actually get on this boat for the ride in my wheelchair. They have like a lift on there, so it's really nice. I recommend that.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was I went to Disney. Gosh, my kids were a little, and it's interesting you say that. That was my favorite. That was my favorite ride because the person, like they narrate everything that they're doing.
Oh, yeah.
They talk, they tell a story, and it's just.
The dad jokes are good too.
Yes.
Yeah.
They tell jokes and stuff. And it's not scary. If you have little kids, it's not scary at all. That was by far my most fun experience at Disney when we went, and I would like to go back. So what do people need to know if they are planning some sort of vacation? Do they need to contact, do you know anything about, do they need to contact the park or anything ahead of time to say, hey, I'm disabled, here's what do I need? Or
well, for me, like the first time when I went to Disney, and I went the first time about 8 years ago as an adult, I hadn't been since a child. I did go through AAA that time, which is a travel agency, and they kind of helped me set up things because I didn't quite know what to expect. But if you want to book your hotel and all that through the website, you can do that. There's options to get rooms with roll-in showers, ones for visually impaired, hearing impaired. You can emphasize that. And when you'll tell them you're in a wheelchair. When you check in, they will know you're in a whatever your disability is, and make a note of what room you're in case there's an emergency. And what's really nice is there are emergency cords in the rooms as well. So if you needed to get a hold of someone, you could, which I have a really interesting story there, because when I went on my last cruise last year, we stayed in a hotel the night before we went in Disney, and I actually fell in the shower, and we had to call their fire department to come help me get up, and they were there within minutes. So thankfully I wasn't hurt, but they had things in place to, so you feel safe. And like I said, it was, I was just thankful they got there so quick, and they were kind enough to help me get off the floor. And I was grateful for that. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. So
those emergency pull cords are a blessing and also a curse, because if I am blind, I somehow I always find those and I pull them every time. Don't intend to, just do it every time.
Well, that's okay. That's what they're there for. Yeah.
I'm keeping them on their toes. That's what I'm doing.
Yes. Yes.
Well, Laura, it has been an absolute joy to talk with you today. You have had such a fascinating journey, and you're really doing advocacy for the disabled community so much. And well, now you've embarked on a new job with the Center for Accessible Living up there in Louisville.
Yes, and I'm really looking forward to that, because again, it's an extension of me being able to help people. So and I can relate. So I feel like it's a good fit. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we are glad to have you on board. Thanks everyone for joining us. If you like the podcast, remember to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you really like the podcast, we'd love it if you could leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. That helps more people to find us. If you really, really like the podcast, then please tell someone about it, either in person or send them an email or just share the link on social media. Thank you all. Every bit helps, and it makes a huge difference for us. If you'd like a transcript, please send us an email to demandanddisrupt@gmail.com and put transcript in the subject line. Thanks to Steve Moore for helping us out with transcripts. Thanks to Chris Unkin for our theme music. Demand and Disrupt is a publication of the Advocado Press with generous support from the Center for Accessible Living located in Louisville, Kentucky. And you can find links to buy the book, A Celebration of Family, Stories of Parents with Disabilities, in our show notes. Thanks, everyone.
You say you've seen a change in me. Just for once I think I would agree. We both know there's a difference. We've had our curtain call, and this time the writing's on the wall. War of words we can't defend. Two damaged hearts refuse to mend. This situation's pointless with each and every day. It's not a game we need to play. Try to make things better, repair and rearrange things, but each and every letter spells out the need for us to open up our minds and hearts to change. Then what will be, will be. Disregard for good to set us free. There's just no way of knowing if love lives anymore. We'll turn out the light, then close the door. Try to make things better, repair and rearrange things, but each and every letter spelt out